to call the meeting of the Stanley County Board of Commissioners, October 7, 2013 meeting to order this time at 7 p.m. I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance tonight. Please stay as long as you'd like. See the business that you came to see transacted. Leave whenever you take a notion. That'll be fine. And like to, don't see our media here tonight. They must be on vacation. Oh, they're back there. I see them. There they are. There it is. Okay. Yes, yes. Welcome. Nice to have you. At this time, Commissioner Donovan will have an invocation and our pledge.
Tonight I would like to honor the memory of a servant of Stanley County who served the county in several roles, including that of county attorney. Mike Taylor passed away September the 29th. One of the scriptures read at his memorial service was Micah 6:8. It says, "He has shown you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." Following are comments made by Mitchell Simpson, Ph.D. and pastor of University Baptist Church, as he delivered his pastor's eulogy Saturday afternoon during the funeral services for Michael Taylor. Mike Taylor was a triple threat. Mike possessed intelligence, wit, and compassion. His keen intelligence was not used to imitate others, but was a threat to bigotry and jingoism. His quick wit was not used to belittle, but was a threat to small-minded, humorless zealotry. And his deep compassion sought to always do the best thing, which sometimes could be a threat to powers that be. Not all of us have the abilities of Michael Taylor, but each of us can do our best with what we have to serve our fellow man. I pray that we will. Join me, please. Almighty God, we ask that you show us how we can use the abilities that you've given us to serve our fellow man, to improve our community, our state, and our country. We ask that you be with the leaders in government at this time, that we might make decisions that would be pleasing to you, that would honor your character, and would be the best thing for all of the citizens. Tonight we ask for your wisdom as these county commissioners seek to make decisions that are in the best interest of our citizens. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Donovan. Our first thing we need to do is to approve the agenda. Are there any adjustments to be made to the agenda tonight? Anyone have anything? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Shudo and a second by Commissioner Dennis to approve as presented. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And the ayes have it. I'm pleased to introduce our first agenda item, Miss Ashley Smith, our 4-H agent, and she has with her tonight a guest that attended a conference that I was at and got to meet this young lady. So welcome, Ashley.
And like Chairman McIntyre said, my name's Ashley Smith, and I work for North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service as the 4-H agent in Stanley County. And I would like to introduce Betsy Austin. She represented Stanley County at the Youth Summit, which was held in conjunction with the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners in August.
Good evening. My name is Betsy Austin. I live in Richfield. I'm in the 8th grade at North Stanley Middle School. I am in the Super Sparks Club with 4-H. Currently, my sister and I are raising turkeys to show at the State Fair next week. In August, I was able to attend the Youth Summit in Guilford County. Before attending, I interviewed County Commissioner Mr. Peter Asciutto. He gave me an overview of what all county commissioners do. At Summit, we learned all about budget, taxes, repayment, debt, expenses, and revenue, all kinds of ways to spend the taxpayers' money. My favorite thing we did at Summit was a board game where we had to take away money from different areas and put them where money was needed most. I met a lot of interesting people. I enjoyed breakfast with Mr. Gene McIntyre. I hope to get the opportunity to attend next year. It was a great experience.
Thank you, Betsy, and thank you, Ashley, for bringing her and for that. And I'd just like to follow up on that. That was a great conference for the youth. They come in on a Friday night, and they have the dinner on Friday night, and then they have a breakfast on Saturday, and then they get into finding out what all commissioners and county government people do. And Ashley and I are actually working on a little project for youth in Stanley County. A lot of counties have different activities for the youth, and since we don't particularly have something, we're trying to get something for the spring that all of the civic students in the high schools will be able to come to, and we'll get the commissioners involved, hopefully, and a lot of department heads, so they can find out what we do here in Stanley County. So Ashley and I have met with the Stanley County Schools and with Greystone and those folks, and haven't said much about this up until now because we wanted to make sure everybody was on board with it. So they seem very excited about doing something. So hopefully in the spring we'll have something for all a group of our youth to attend. So thanks again for coming, and thank you, Betsy, for participating, and hope you can go again next year. Does anybody have a question or want to say anything? Thank you. Our next agenda item is senior services. Ms. Becky Weemhoff has a couple of items for us tonight. Welcome, Becky.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, especially to tell you about one of our staff members. I like to think that everyone on staff has a real calling to do the job that they do. And not often are we put in a situation where we can make a difference in a client's life, whether it's life or death, and like Dorothy did. But let me tell you about what Dorothy did recently. This is Dorothy Kendall. She's been an in-home aide for almost 15 years. And a couple weeks ago, she went into a client's home that we have been serving for about 3 years. When she got there, as soon as she opened the door, she could smell something, and she thought it was probably a gas leak. And so, thinking that's what it was, she immediately went to the client and told her that she needed to get dressed because she was still in bed and that they needed to leave the house. Well, at that point, the client was not dressed, still in bed, and got very argumentative with Dorothy and told her that there was not an odor in the house. She didn't know what she smelled, but it was not gas, and for her to leave her alone. This kept on for a while. The client's 85, by the way, 85 years old. I'm getting to that.
Didn't even get it.
I'm getting to that. She's an amputee as well. Okay. Well, at that point, Dorothy realized she needed to get the client and herself out of the house. So she decided she would call the department and have us call the emergency personnel. And so it was actually a call that was like the "Are you okay?" or "Can you hear me?" commercials. You know how they're saying, "Can you hear me?" "No, can you hear me?" The cell phone service was terrible at this client's house. Eventually, after walking outside, we were able to communicate, and we realized what the situation was. We took over at that point and called 911 and called the natural gas company so they could come out and look for the leak. Dorothy went back inside to help get the client ready. About that time, she went back in, and the client had moved from being argumentative to being mad. She was mad that Dorothy was making her get up and leave. And so after a while of being mad at Dorothy and telling her she didn't want to get out of bed, she gradually did get out of bed and was moving very slow. It wasn't until probably the first volunteer fireman got there and told the client that she had to get out and she only had a minute or two to get ready and leave. Did the client actually take Dorothy seriously? The EMS personnel arrived, the natural gas people arrived. They checked out Dorothy and checked out the client. They both were fine and did not need any further medical treatment. But thinking back now, we think that probably that gas leak had been going on for a while. When Dorothy walked in the house, you immediately got a headache, right? And your eyes started watering. The client had become immune to the smell and did not smell anything. And the fact that she was still in bed was really unusual. She was always up and dressed every morning when Dorothy got there. So that sort of tells us too that she was suffering the effects of the gas leak. This client is 85 years old, as I said, and independent, as I'm sure you have picked up on. They live by themselves. They have no immediate family in the area. They are an amputee, and they usually use a wheelchair inside and out of the house. So it would have been difficult for this client to have managed on her own to have gotten out of bed and gotten out the door without Dorothy being there, especially in an emergency. So anyway, this is a happy ending. No one suffered any side effects from any of the natural gas leak. It was, by the way, discovered. It was in a pipe behind this stove, and it was capped. And so everybody is fine and well, but it's not often that we have a client, an employee that, especially in this position, that saves a citizen's life. And so for that, we're very, very thankful and appreciative of what Dorothy did.
If it's okay with her, I'd like for the commissioners to come with me down and shake her hand.
Sure.
Thank you, Becky, for that. And
Sure.
your next item.
Okay, it was a pleasure to tell you that. Okay, at our most recent Senior Services Advisory Board meeting in September, we had some board members who was due to rotate off the board or to be reappointed. And as a result of that, there was a very lengthy discussion about our bylaws and what our bylaws state that that the board members have to do. Currently, if you are a advisory board member, you serve a 3-year term, and you are eligible to serve two terms of 3 years apiece. In total, in other words, you would be on the board for 6 years. After a lot of discussion and the board voted unanimously to amend the bylaws, knowing that it would have to be approved by the commissioners. And what the advisory board would like to have put into the bylaws is that the board members can serve 3-year terms with no term limits. As before, each of the members' 3-year terms on the board, the advisory board will vote on them. Any more board member can choose to be reappointed to the board if they choose to do that, or to come off, and then ultimately their names are presented to you as the commissioners for the final approval. And so on behalf of the advisory board, I am requesting that the advisory board bylaws be amended to reflect that board members can serve a 3-year term with no term limits upon a majority vote of the advisory board, with the final approval given by the Stanley County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Becky. Anyone have a question of Becky? I think we're all aware that the commissioners have a policy also of just 2 consecutive terms, and then you have to come off a year, and then you're eligible to come back on for 2 more terms. I think the bottom line is that we have gone over that at times because some circumstances are that you're into a project and a person's coming off and they're vital to what that board does, and we want them to stay on, so we have let that happen. So I think the fact that commissioners have the final say, that I think this would be okay, but I need input
Okay.
from fellow
And we
commissioners.
understand that.
Yeah. Anyone? What's the pleasure of the board? I have a motion by Commissioner Shudo to approve this request, and a second by Commissioner Dennis. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. And the ayes have it. Thank you, Becky.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my next
Next.
one. Okay. All right, the advisory board at the Senior Services Department has 4 members whose 3-year terms will have expired actually at the end of September. 3 of these board members, Sylvia Lingerfeld, Dolores Chambers, and Dewey Pressler, are completing their first 3-year term on the board, and a 4th member, Ann Perry, is completing her 2nd term. All 4 board members have indicated they wish to remain on the board for another 3-year term, which will run through September the 30th, 2016. So I request your reappointment to the board of Sylvia Lingerfeld, Dolores Chambers, Dewey Pressler, and Ann Perry for another 3-year term.
Okay, you've heard the request. What's the pleasure of the board?
I move to accept.
Have a motion to accept by Commissioner Dennis, second by Commissioner Shudo. Any further discussion? I know what it is. You pay them so good, they just don't want to leave.
You know that's it. We give them overtime too, you know.
Here are no comments. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. And the ayes have it. Thank you, Becky,
Thank
very
you.
much. Next agenda item is a presentation from the Planning and Zoning, and our Director, Michael Sandy, will be the presenter. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Chairman McIntyre, Board of Commissioners. Hope you're all doing well tonight.
Tony said that was enough today.
Okay. First item on the agenda we have is zoning amendment, ZA 13-3. ZA 13-3 is add a definition to our zoning ordinance. In section 1302, it's community centers, which would be defined as a public or quasi-public facility, often a complex of buildings that is the primary use of a parcel of land, designed for the use as a social, recreational, and agriculture-related cultural center, where combination of social, recreation, welfare, health, habilitation, and rehabilitation services are provided for the public. As a part of the community center, there may be included craft rooms, music rooms, game rooms, meeting rooms, and auditoriums. Community centers can include both indoor and outdoor activities. Outdoor activities may include but are not limited to field sports, gardening, and agriculture-related tourism. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any particular reason this came about? I mean, just curious.
No particular reason. We just realized that with some possible changes that come along with agricultural tourism, we want to clarify what's allowed and what's not allowed as far as indoor and outdoor activities, and who's running the facility.
Very good. Any questions? What's the pleasure of the board? Have a motion to approve by Commissioner Shudo and a second by Commissioner Dennis. Any further discussion? Guess we need to hold a public hearing first, don't we? All right, yeah, we have to have a public hearing. At this time, the floor is open. We're now in public hearing for this zoning ZA 13-03. Anyone who wishes to speak for or against, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, declare we're out of the public hearing. Now, what's the pleasure of the board? Motion by Commissioner Shudo and a second by Commissioner Dennis. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no, and the ayes have it. Okay, item number 2.
Yes, sir. Next one is a follow-up from the general statutes change concerning the Board of Adjustment. Staff has prepared a text amendment to clarify and to reorganize the Board of Adjustment section in our zoning ordinance. And what it does, it mirrors the requirements that the general statutes have now set out, clarifying the language and process for them. Revisions were made in the notice requirements and appealed notices, in addition to the findings for each variance cases. So that wordage was changed from its original enabling legislation. Be glad to answer any questions.
Is there a big difference in the sections removing 1001, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as opposed to the new sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
It was just the easiest way to do that. Is the total.
Get rid of
What we did is actually we followed what the general statutes laid out in each section and and made our ordinance reflect the same. It was easier to read and cross-reference.
Okay. Any questions? Do we need a public hearing for this? Now declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor or against this zoning ordinance, please come forward. Seeing none, it's a pleasure of the board. We're now out of public hearing. Have a motion to accept Commissioner Dennis and second Commissioner Shudo. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. And item number 3C.
Okay. This is zoning amendment, zoning amendment 13-6, solar power generation systems overlay district. This section would be a new section called number 618. Recognizing that solar energy power generation systems are a growing industry in consumer usage, it is recommended that we adopt some guidelines and rules on placement and address the impacts to the county.
Anyone have any questions?
I applaud the planning board and the staff for bringing this before us because I think we are going to have some more. We're begun to have some, are going to have some more. I do have some concerns, though, that there may be some unintended consequences with the language that's being presented to us. And I have spoken to the manager, and I think he's already spoken to Michael as well, especially on the second page. It talks about what a minor SEPGS is and a major one. The minor actually describes a privately used solar system that generates less power than used on the same property over the course of a month. We actually have situations, though, where there are residential users who are generating more power than they use and are actually selling that power on the grid. And my concern is that I'm not sure we know enough about the language here, and I don't want any unintended consequences of us making the requirements that are listed in section 618.3 for residential folks who want to put in a solar system that generates more than they use, and they have to come in and put in the 6-foot fence and do the 10-foot buffers and all the rest. So I'm a little concerned about that, and I don't know whether we ought to give Michael a chance to, investigate that a little bit further, or what the rest of the board might feel. I would probably choose to do that, especially if there's no hurry in getting this done. I just am concerned that we are going to make a decision here that would have unintended consequences for current users or potential users who want to develop some solar power at their residence.
Anyone else? We can hold a public hearing and then decide after that. All right. Anybody else have a question before we go to public hearing? I now declare that the public hearing is open. Anyone wish to speak for or against this zoning ordinance, please come forward. Seeing none, we're now at a public hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
Tell me what we need to do here to have some discussion, because I'd like to hear what other members think. If you're in agreement with that or not, I don't want to do something here that you guys aren't going to agree with. Do I need to make a motion first and then get a second to discuss it, or can we just discuss it first?
It's on the agenda. We can discuss it without a
Okay.
motion.
So, I mean, what's your other opinions about it? You think we should investigate that a little bit further? If you're in agreement with that, then I'll be glad to make the motion.
Right.
It's a good concern to bring up. I didn't realize there were people selling power over the grid from their own house, so.
Is that actually happening?
Well, I know the Nancy and Ron Bryant, because when they had the meeting out at Oakborough,
Right.
they were there, and they mentioned that they were doing that.
There's some applications or some contacts being made for various properties in the county, especially the western part of the county now, as far as leasing those lands for solar purposes. So I agree with Commissioner Cunningham, and I think it probably should be tabled until a later date of more information on the matter.
solar panels, you gotta be careful, but too many trees, right? You're gonna create you a problem, from shading it, which you don't wanna do, so, I believe we want to table it. Let's really take a hard look at it, make sure we got everything right. I don't wanna shoot ourselves in the foot, not that Michael hadn't got it perfect, but I just don't want us to shoot ourselves in the foot right off the bat, get-go.
All right, I'll entertain a motion, Commissioner Donovan.
Okay, I would make a motion that, while we're applauding the staff for bringing this for us, that we feel like we need more information and that we table this for now. We look forward to them bringing it back to us as soon as they can answer our questions.
You've heard the motion, and a second by Commissioner Dennis. Any further discussion? I think the county manager has a point.
Just a point of clarification. Excuse me. Staff is, one of the concerns was we want to make sure we protect property owners around a commercial solar thing too. So I want to make sure the board, that's still something the board is certainly sensitive to, that we want to make sure that the ordinance doesn't throw that out, that we are trying to protect and buffer those residential areas around maybe a piece of land that's bought, and they're going to put a commercial solar array in that's going to be fairly substantial in size. I think that's sort of the pre-impetus behind this, is trying to protect the property rights of those folks around it. At the same time, I understand what you all are being sensitive to, those smaller residential solar arrays that, you know, it'd be just slightly over what they're producing to cover their own house that they may be able to sell back to the grid. At some point, there's a tipping point of whether, you know, a residential, you know, individual wants to put a big solar array in their backyard and they're using a tenth of it to you know, power their home, but the other 90% of it they're selling. In those cases, that's probably more of a commercial operation, and neighbors may be sensitive to that. So it's just finding that right balance. So I applaud you for raising the question and tabling it. I just want to make sure, from Michael's perspective, that you still have concerns about making sure we protect the residential property owners that are maybe situated adjacent to a commercial operation.
And I think that was the point
Yeah,
entirely.
Mr. Chair, I definitely agree with that, and I think our other zoning and planning rules do, you know, we have been doing that. We have been trying to protect residential from industrial or commercial. We want to continue to do that. I'm just not sure that we know enough about this, and as I called Andy this afternoon, I said, you know, there may even be 4 or 5 homes at the end of a cul-de-sac who look at this as being able to generate power, and they may want to put in a large enough unit where they could all have power from. So, yeah, it's one of those technological questions where if we aren't careful, we're going to do something that's going to have unintended consequences. So that's my big. So it's not only just a residence that we're looking at, but it could even be that we have 4 or 5 or more in a subdivision who are looking at that, and they're using the power generated for residential purposes. So it's really not commercial, but at the same time, it could be where the where the solar panels get to be rather large, and even then we might want to have some buffering and some, you know, some shrubs or some things like that take away the sight lines. So I think there's just a few more things that we need to do to try to look at this and make it better.
Very good. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. And the ayes have it, and it will be tabled. Thank you, Michael. Our next agenda item is board appointments. First one is Library Board of Trustees. Presenter is Ms. Melanie Hollis. Welcome, Melanie.
Good evening. Just a short business item for you tonight. The Library Board of Trustees, which is an advisory board, has had 2 recent term expirations, Larry Emmerich and Wade McSwain. Before you is one application that we would like to fill Larry Emmerich's position. So my request is that you would take a look at one application and make a decision to put her on the board or not.
Thank you, Ms. Hollis. And her name is Elsa Matta?
Matta.
Matta. And we're still looking for another one.
We're still looking for
I
another
serve
one.
on this board, and we're losing 2 good ones, but I understand
Yes.
that Emmerich is,
Unfortunately, both of them,
busy.
both Larry and Wade had other commitments and
Right.
felt they couldn't continue.
Okay.
I make a motion, we appoint Elsa Mata.
Okay, have a motion by Commissioner Shudo and a second by Commissioner Dennis. Any further discussion?
She's pretty sharp, I know her from around
All right,
great grades in school.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the ayes have it, and then we'll continue to look for another replacement.
Thank you, and yeah,
Please,
hopefully we'll have another one soon.
Please tell Mr. McSwain that I said he's still on there till he said.
Until we fill it, yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. And our next is Technical Coordinating Committee appointment by Mr. Andy Lucas, our manager. Mr.
Thank you,
Lucas.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The state with its, the way they've done the new strategic highways and the planning for that, they have expanded the role of the RPO to include airports. And so we need to appoint an individual to represent the interests of the airport on the technical, the TAC, and the for the TCC, which is the Technical Coordinating Committee, which is essentially the staff part of the TCC. And so it's recommended that the board appoint David Griffin, our airport director, to be a member of the TCC, and that his alternate be Becky Broadway, who also is a staff member at the airport. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir. You've heard the request. What's the pleasure of the board? Have a motion to approve of Commissioner Dennis. Have a second by Commissioner Donovan. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. And the ayes have it. Thank you. Our next agenda item is a proclamation declaring October 23rd through 31st as National Red Ribbon Week. And once again, our presenter is County Manager Andy Lucas. Mr. Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This was a request from a proclamation that came to the county commissioners across the state from the Young Marines. And so this was another basically related to drug awareness and education. And so this was for your consideration. I believe it was given to every county across the state. And so the information's fairly self-explanatory, but I'll be more than happy to answer any questions if the board has them.
Anyone have a question? And I think you have the proclamation, and I'm sure you've all read it. So have a motion to approve by Commissioner Dennis, second by Commissioner Shudo. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. And the ayes have it. And we did get a ribbon to wear designating, and instead of send a pin, would have them on now. So wear your label. Our next agenda item is a video presentation. Presenters County Manager Andy Lucas. I received this thing in the email and asked him if this would be appropriate. They asked us to, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners has asked that this be shown in our meeting. And we have a new president, Mr. Ray Jeffers from Person County. And I think he's on there.
Hello, I'm Person County Vice Chairman Ray Jeffers and President of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. I would like to invite you to join me in helping the NCACC represent the interests of all 100 counties. Our organization is only as strong as our members, and we need every county to be engaged. There are many ways you can get involved with our organization.
Thanks, President Jeffers. The NCACC has been advocating for counties for more than 100 years. And along the way, we have found that the best advocates for county government are you, our local elected officials. That's why we'd like to make it easy for you to help us achieve your goals at the General Assembly. Legislative Counsel Sam Skinner is going to tell you about how you can become involved.
One of the best ways for county commissioners to get involved is to serve on one of our 7 steering committees. The steering committees provide guidance and recommendation to the board of directors in 7 policy areas. They're agriculture, environment, general government, health and human services, justice and public safety, public education, and tax and finance. The committees meet quarterly and will consider information on emerging county-related issues. Each steering committee will be meeting in October, and I hope you will consider serving on a committee. You can sign up for a steering committee on our website.
The association does a lot more than advocate for county interests. Another part of our mission is to provide education and training for county commissioners and county staff. Associate Director of Education Jason King is going to tell you more about an exciting opportunity we have coming up in October.
On October 15th, the NCACC will sponsor a seminar on the implementation of the Affordable Care Act and its impacts on county government. This day-long seminar is free and will be held at the Sheraton Hotel in Orange County. We will bring policy experts from the National Association of Counties and other organizations to discuss with county officials the steps that counties need to be considering to make sure they are ready for this change. Elected officials can learn about the policy implications, and staff can learn about the details of implementing the Affordable Care Act. Counties will be impacted by the ACA in numerous ways, as employers, as providers of public health services, and as administrators of the state's Medicaid program. This seminar will help counties understand the issues that could come up as the ACA becomes law. I hope to see you in Orange County on October 15th. For more information about this seminar, please visit our website at the address on your screen.
Thanks, Jason. Another way that we provide services to counties is through our risk management pools. You might not know that the NCACC is the #1 provider of insurance for workers' compensation and liability and property for North Carolina's county governments. Amy Basin, our General Counsel, is here to explain.
The risk management pools were created to help counties and county entities better manage the costs associated with liability and property insurance and workers' compensation insurance. Our programs are specifically tailored to meet the unique needs of county government. We also provide an extensive risk control service to help members reduce their costs by identifying and eliminating potential risks. If you would like to learn more about our pools, please visit the NCACC website and click on the Risk Management tab.
As you can see, the NCACC does a lot for our counties. I hope you will join me this year as we seek to make the NCACC an even more valuable partner for all 100 counties.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas, for that. Our next agenda item is our consent agenda. I have a motion by Commissioner Dennis to approve as presented. I have a second by Commissioner Morton. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. And the ayes have it. At this time, we have come to the segment of our agenda where anyone wishing to speak to the county commissioners on any issue on your mind, you can come and vent to us. So if you're here and would like to speak, please come forward, state your name, where you're from, and hold your comments to about 3 minutes, please. Yeah, just get in line there, that'll be fine. Okay, seeing none. Comments from our county commissioners. We'll start with Commissioner Donovan tonight.
No comment.
Commissioner Morton.
No comment.
Mr. Dennis.
I just want to thank Lindsay for mentioning Mike Taylor. He was a fine gentleman, and I worked very closely with him a lot on the airport, and he was just a fine gentleman. As a matter of fact, I was fortunate I got to talk to Mike about 6 weeks ago. He called and we spent about 15 minutes on the phone. I appreciate you saying what you did about it.
Mr. Shudo.
Sure, quick, I'm glad Becky's still here. You know, I'm doing the once a month, I try to do a work day, and I went down to Becky, I said, where can I work? And she said, set me over to deliver meals with the home delivery meal program, which is formerly known as Meals on Wheels. And I was fortunate she hooked me up with Bud Morton. So that was quite the morning. And I was pretty impressed. You know, some of the people, of course, the folks needed the food, and a couple of those houses were pretty destitute, you know, where we delivered them. And a couple of things that impressed me was, one is there was one person we did not deliver to because he just did not answer the door when we brought it back. They actually have a policy when someone isn't there to get the food, they actually contact somebody to go over there to make sure that person's okay. You know, they might have fallen down over the weekend or something like that. And Becky said there's been instances where help has had, the person has needed help. So I think it takes like 400 volunteers to do that program. I think Bud works a couple days a week, and a lot of people just rotate in and out. So that's a lot of volunteers to make that program work. And, I talked to some of the folks like Betty Crook and them, and the people really appreciated that they deliver the meals to. Anyway, thanks for you guys spearheading that.
And sometimes that's the only person that these people, you're the only people they see that comes by to visit. So that's a good program. Thank you.
And then the one strange one, Bud called her the mystery woman. She would never open the door, and you just had to leave the food. And there are some people who just are shut-ins, and they had to just leave the food there, and you leave, and they open the door, and they come take it.
Ms. Attorney? No comment. Mr. County Manager, have you talked enough tonight?
No comment, thank you.
How about our clerk to the board? You have anything to say? Nothing to say. Okay. I have no comments tonight. I will entertain a motion to recess this meeting, go into closed session to discuss personnel issue in accordance with GS 143-318.11, little a6, and also economic development. General Statute 143-318.11, little a4. Have a motion by Commissioner Dennis and a second by Commissioner Shudo. All in favor say aye. Those opposed no. The ayes have it. We're now recessed and going to closed session.